Springboks squad has been named for the 2019 Rugby World Cup. It's not one that's kind of hugely full of surprises. If you've looked at the way that Rassie Erasmus has been, I guess, developing his team, and also the fact that he sent some guys on Curry Cup duties recently, it kind of indicated the direction he was going. Naturally, there are guys who miss out. Anytime you're whittling down a team down to 31, especially in a country like South Africa, we've got so many top-class players based both home and abroad. There's going to be guys who miss out, but I think he's picked a pretty good 31. I'll go over the players, give you guys a few thoughts, some of the names who didn't make the cut, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on the squad as well. Pretty standard, going with three hookers. Skelk Brits, Malcolm Marx, Marx Mbongi Mbonambi. Marx is going to be the starter in all the big games, that's for sure. His line-out throwing is still not the best in the world, but pretty much everything else that guy does is top class, and his work at the breakdown is phenomenal. So he is a force to be reckoned with, and he will be starting in all the big games. I feel like Bongi and Mbonambi will be the second guy, and he gets a lot of grief in South Africa. I think a fair bit of it uncalled for. He's a pretty class player. I mean, remember, wasn't it that series last year against England when Marx was injured and Bongi did a pretty damn good job? So, I mean, again, his line-out throwing is also not the best in the world, but overall, the guy's a pretty good player. And Skelk Brits is perhaps... he still remains that unusual player. Like, sometimes coaches just have that player that they just always pick, kind of seemingly against all logic. I mean, I guess Rassie is a smart guy and he's got his reasons. The guy's 38 years old. He must be good for things other than what he does on the park, because Rassie, despite picking him in all these squads, has given him very few minutes to play with. So, I mean, the guy is still a good player at 38. I wouldn't have thought he's going to be starting any games, but whatever leadership or coaching or mentoring or whatever he does around the park, and I've seen him interviewed, he's a really good guy. It must be enough that Rassie thinks that he's enough to keep him in the squad at the price of someone a bit younger. There's certainly other good number twos in South Africa, but those other three guys. Props: Stephen Kitsoff, Vincent Koch, Franz Malherba, Tendai and Tamawira, and Trevor Nyakani. Again, those are probably, I mean, Vincent Koch was probably the one guy that you thought was maybe on the fringes, because again, he hasn't kind of been in favour with Rassie for the most part, but the other guys have all been pretty solid. Trevor Nyakani has kind of reinvented himself. He seems to have come and really brought it to another level, when even a year ago you would have thought, should that guy be in the Springboks? Now he's looked better than Malherba at scrum time, and that's kind of Malherba's thing. So, Stephen Kitsoff is one of the best loose heads in the world. The Beast has got 110 caps, and again, he gets criticised a fair bit as well, but I still think he's performing at a pretty good level. So, for a guy, again, he's getting on. When was he? 34? He's still bringing it around the park, and he's not just phoning it in. So, it's a pretty impressive looking front row, however they line them up. The locks, again, you're just spoiled for choice. They're going for Diaka, Etzebeth, Mostert, and Snyman. Very, very good. Etzebeth is kind of the brute force guy. Diaka has been in and out with injuries, for the latter half of the Super Rugby season. But when he and Snyman play together at the Bulls, they are a force to be reckoned with as well. And Mostert at line-out time just really seems to settle things down, and his relationship with Marx could be very important, because I feel like Marx's line-out throwing goes better when Mostert's the guy calling. That's just me. Lucy's, and I guess you could say Peter Steph-Tutoy is a backup lock as well, but you got Peter Steph-Tutoy, Sia Khaleesi, Francois Lowe, Quokka Smith, and Dwayne Vermeulen. I guess Quokka Smith is probably the guy that you're pretty happy that gets in. That is one guy that potentially wouldn't have made it, because there was always a bit of a question mark about his size, because he is pretty small for a guy who plays in the back row, especially a South African back row, which has traditionally got a bit of bulk to it. And he is a fair bit younger than all the other guys as well. But, I mean, Peter Steph is just going to tackle all day long. Sia Khaleesi is one of the most dynamic ball carriers in world rugby for a loose forward anyway. And he's that weird position where he's not like an out-and-out fetcher. He's not an out-and-out blindside. He can do a bit of everything. And his ball running is just phenomenal. Dwayne Vermeulen, just one of the best players in the world. So, 33, probably going to be his last World Cup. Into the backs, they're taking 3 halfbacks, which is differing from what some of the other teams are doing. The Wallabies are only taking 2. Faf de Klerk, Herschel Yankees, and Corbus Reinach. You'd probably say that of the entire squad, Herschel Yankees is your bolter, the kind of player that a year ago, if you'd said is going to make the World Cup squad, you would have laughed in their faces. But that guy has just come such a long way in such a short time. Easily one of the best performing players in Super Rugby this year in South Africa, and gets rewarded with some time for the Springboks, and then takes that chance with open arms and just really excels. So that guy's been an exciting player to watch, and he's got some experience around him in Reinach and Faf de Klerk as well. So I think Faf is going to be the starter, but I think Herschel Yankees is going to bring something different as well. And Reinach, I'm not sure. Maybe he starts one of the games against one of the smaller teams. I guess we'll wait and see. A couple of fly halves and out in Yankees and Handré Pollard. Handré Pollard is going to start without a doubt. Yankees may get 1 or 2 games in the 10 jersey. Again, against some of the games, some of the teams in the pool. But I think for the most part, it's going to be Pollard. Midfield, Lekanyo Damien Delende, Jesse Creel, and Franz Steyn. So the guy who I haven't been mentioning the guys who get the cut. The guys who made it, it's always been a question mark. It's the one area of the Springbok team that you're still not 100% sure. I feel like he seems to prefer Delende at 12, and then it's either going to be or Creel at 13. Probably with Creel on the bench because he's so versatile in the positions that he can cover. But that remains one to watch as well. Franz Steyn also can cover multiple positions in the back line. Even though he's 32, is he still young enough and quick enough to cover some of those positions that he used to cover back in the day, or is he best sticking in the midfield? That's a question. And the outside backs, Cheslin Colby, Makazola Mapimpi, Sibu Nkosi, Warwick Galant, and Willie LaRue. I always say Willie, but it's Willie, I've been told. So in terms of caps, that's kind of the one area that you would look at and go, there's a bit of lack of experience there. Apart from LaRue, who's got 55 caps, everybody else, Galant 7, Nkosi 8, Mapimpi 7, and Colby 9. So none of those guys even get to double figures, whereas pretty much everywhere else, there's a lot of experienced guys to kind of hold the hands of the guys who are a bit less so. So, Nkosi's been in phenomenal form. If you saw that last game, he was absolutely amazing. And he still looks angry. He always looks so mad. And in the team photos of the announcement, he still looks mad. You go into the World Cup, all right, I'm pissed. Just seems to be his thing. Colby's amazing, so I'm pretty happy he's there. And, I hope it's Nkosi and Colby on the wings. They do only have kind of 5 guys specializing in the outside, but you've got Jesse Creel who can cover so many positions. You've got Handré Pollard who can drop into the midfield. So there's a lot of options in the Springbok team, and these guys can cover a lot of positions. Peter Steff can go second row, back row. Trevor Nyakane can cover loose head, tight head. So even Malcolm Marx can head into the back row if he needs to. So there's certainly a lot of options. You can imagine Crocker Smith heading out into the backs with all that sevens experience as well. Some of the guys who I noted down who didn't make the cut. Reinhard Alstad is one of the guys. I think they said, it might have been Rassie that said it, that if Khaleesi hadn't have come fit like he did, then Alstad would be the next guy off the rank. So he can probably feel a little bit unlucky. Skara and Tobeni, is he the next choice? Hooker, he seems to be preferred over Akavanda Murva at the moment, but that's what I mean about there's plenty of guys who could be there instead of Skalk Brits, but Skalk Brits obviously brings something that Rassie wants. Van Staden is also an option for loose forwards as well. Very good player. Lizo Kaboka probably loses out, and just the fact that there's a bit more experience around him. Andre Esterhazen in the midfield. I guy that I really like, but just hasn't quite justified a Springboks call-up for the World Cup. Every time he's been chosen for the Springboks, I've been excited for him, and it's never quite happened. Dylan Lades can cover half of the back line, but again, maybe defensively a little bit poor. So maybe that's holding him back. Damian Willemse, he's been injured for the tail end of the season as well, so that didn't do him any favours. Likewise, Apiwa Dianti, despite this doping thing, which is still above his head, which is totally not resolved yet. They're still going to go with the B sample. But yeah, he's a guy that a year ago you would have looked at and thought he's a guaranteed spot for the World Cup, and yet he's not ended up making it, been injured, so not been able to come back in time. There's other guys as well, Wikolo, there's other guys, but those are just some of the ones that I was thinking of. You guys let me know the other ones that you might have thought could sneak into the squad. Anybody here who you think perhaps could be staying in South Africa or in their club team rather than going on the plane to South Africa. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on the squad. I think the All Blacks one is named tomorrow, so it's all really kicking off. It's not going to be too long, but yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts. I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.